Hello, today we are going over stretching for the legs for flexibility. This is going to be a follow along activity. So if you guys do the stretches with me, and if you have any questions, let me know in chat. Hopefully this is all going through. Looks like we are live, so just making sure before we get too far in here. So this is stretching for the legs. Now, why would you want to do stretching for the legs? So it's good if you feel stiff and like it's hard to move around. It's good if you wanted to increase your strength and be able to do things like a deeper squat or more powerful movements where you have that full range of the muscle. Or if you just want to be able to move around, be able to do more things like a full split or move more effectively in your body, it's good for that too. So I'd recommend this to anybody. If you need to adjust any of these stretches or back off a little bit from them, none of these should be painful. They should feel just a light tension, but nothing should hurt. So we're going to be focusing in on the muscles in the hips, knees, and ankles. So everything lower body. Let me know if you have questions about anything else, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So what we're going to start with is a side lunge stretch. So we're going to be stretching the muscles on the inside of the thigh in here. So you're going to point both feet towards the front, and from here you're going to bend one knee. You know, you can use a wall or a post or something to give you support so you don't have to really hold up your body weight into a side lunge position as much. You can support against the wall, or if you have a sturdy chair, that works too. So you're going to be bending down, stretching the inner part of your thigh. You should feel that stretch from sort of the knee area into about mid-thigh. You can put your hands on your leg to help push down just a little bit and hold that stretch. Hopefully this is going through. Looks like we're live. And holding that stretch. This is stretching the adductors of the hip, or adductors of the thigh. They pull in towards the middle, so we're pushing them out into a stretch position. I find this stretch really helps me with a deep squat. When I don't have these muscles loosened up, I am not able to get as deep because these muscles pull in and restrict my squat depth. They lock out the hips. And then same thing on the other side, keeping the toes pointed towards the front. It's that side lunge position, dropping the hips back, feeling a stretch on the inner part of your thigh. We're going to hold this stretch. Again, you can put your hands on your leg to help push down, or grab onto something like a wall or any sort of sturdy chair or counter works too. And holding that stretch. So these muscles actually go in all the way up into the hips. So you might feel it deep into your hips, especially if you're tight in there. I feel it more down by the knee, but you could feel it all the way up into the bottom of the hip bone. If you don't feel that now though, you'll definitely feel it on the next stretch. And relax. Now we're going to do a deep lunge hip stretch. So now we're going to really get into that right up by the hip. So you're going to go to a kneeling position. Mr. Johnson says, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. So we're going to go into a kneeling position. And then same thing as before, you're going to put the leg out to the side. Now we're going into a deep side lunge position. So I'd recommend being in a kneeling position for this. And then you're going to drop your hips back, sort of sitting down backwards towards your heel. You should feel a stretch deep in your hip. These muscles run all the way down the inner part of your thigh, but you should feel it probably more up towards the hip region. You might feel all the way down. Now, if you need to, your foot can come up off the ground. You don't have to have it flat on the ground, that's okay. Bladdy says, I like bald men. Well, I'm glad, I guess. And then holding that stretch, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. It's a great stretch to start with if you want to go for splits or work on your splits, where you can do one leg at a time. You might actually notice that one side is actually tighter than the other. So starting leg out to the side, toe pointed forward. We're gonna stretch the inner part of this thigh all the way up into the hip. So you're gonna sit down towards the back, sitting down towards your heel till you feel a stretch on the inner part of your thigh. You might be able to go a little lower on one side than the other, that's okay. And holding that stretch. And relax. All right. So for this next one, you'll need a chair or something to prop your foot up onto. So I'll show you what we're doing, and then you can grab a chair if you need it right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your foot, prop it up onto a chair, and then from here, you're going to try and straighten your knee out. We're stretching the muscles in the back of the thigh, the hamstrings. They run from the back of the knee all the way up to the hip, all along that back of the thigh. So trying to straighten your knee as much as you can till you feel that stretch, and then hold that position. So this is just a mic, it's not actually a collar, but it's a good one. I know it does look a little bit like a priest's collar with the white on black. I didn't think about that when I bought the mic, but it's definitely definitely good. I see it after and it's like, no, what did I do? And then same thing on the other side, stretching the hamstrings, bringing your leg up, propping it up on a chair or anything that's sturdy, and then straightening the knee out. Straight as you can make it. The more straight it is, the better stretch it will be. If you need to, drop it down a little bit. If you go a little lower, you'll still get a stretch. If it's too much, you can always drop it down. The higher you go, the more stretch it's gonna be. I try and get it to be about level, but if you can't quite get there, that's okay. Just go to where you feel a stretch in those hamstrings in the back of the thigh. Where's my hair? There's a little bit there, but I find it's easier for me to just shave it off. Keep it short. It's cooler that way too. All right, now we're gonna stretch these muscles right in the front of the thigh. So you're gonna grab onto something sturdy, reach around, grab your ankle, and then pull up to the back, feeling a stretch in the front of your thigh. Hold just a gentle stretch. No, I never had cancer. Yeah, I just chose to have this haircut for some reason. I've always liked to have shorter hair. It's just easier for me. It's lower maintenance. I can do it myself. And same thing on the other side. Reaching around, grabbing your ankle, pulling up to the back till you feel a stretch in the front of the thigh. These muscles attach all the way down to the knee. tighter on the right side for me than the left. It's a little more challenging. I do not know how to pronounce your name, but they asked, did you watch the cricket match between India and Pakistan? I don't watch cricket. I'm actually not a huge sports watcher, to be honest. CG says, haha, so funny, keep your path, bro. Thanks, I appreciate it. All right, so now we just stretched the front and back. Now we're gonna stretch the sides of the hips down. You should feel this one down into the leg. So you're gonna lay down on your back. I'll move the camera just a little bit down. So you're gonna lay down on your back. You're gonna bring your knee up. We're stretching the side of that leg that's up. You're gonna grab with the opposite hand and pull over and across your body, trying to keep your hips on the ground. Feel this stretch across your leg into your hip. Holding that stretch. So stretching that glute med and that socket of the hip. Gluteus medius runs along the side. A lot of people know about glute max, which is your butt muscle. Glute med is just to the side of that gluteus medius. It's actually one of your 3 glute muscles, but most people miss this one. And same thing on the other side. So bringing your knee up, pulling over and across your body, feeling a stretch on the outside of your hip, down into your leg. So it attaches at the thigh and at the hip. Again, we're doing stretching for the legs for flexibility. This is going to be a follow along stretch. So these are all for doing along with me. If you have questions as we go, let me know. That way we can talk about them as you're here. If you feel it in a different spot, or if it's hard for you to feel that stretch, let me know. And relax. Jose asks, Mavs or Celtics? Are those sports teams? I'm not big on sports, so I'm not really sure what we're talking about. Unfortunately, I don't watch a whole lot of sports. I like exercise, just not a sports guy for some reason. It's never really appealed to me. All right, now we're gonna stretch these muscles up more at the front of the hip. These go from the hip to sort of mid-thigh area. So we're going to go into a kneeling position. And from here, you're going to keep your knee on the ground and then push your hips forward till you feel a stretch in the front of that thigh and the back leg. So trying to keep your body up, don't have it forward like this. This is called a runner's stretch because it's sort of like you're a runner in the blocks where you're down or you're ready to start a race, but for us, we're keeping the body up. So it's a slight variation of that. You might feel this all the way up into your spine, right about belly button level. Okay, this muscle actually attaches at your spine and at your thigh. And then same thing on the other side. I find for me, the muscles on the inside of my thigh are the most limiting. They get tightest the fastest. How about you guys? What would you say is your number one muscle that you just know that's the one that I need to make sure to stretch? Because otherwise it's gonna tighten up, it's gonna feel uncomfortable. What would you guys say is yours? Like, could be even an area like, oh man, below my knee, in the back of the leg, you know, things like that. Doesn't have to be a specific muscle. I find really it's inside the thigh for me though. And then some up here in the neck. All right, now we're gonna work down into the calf down here. So still in kneeling position. What you're gonna do is, I would recommend doing this in front of a wall so you have a target to aim for. You're gonna keep your foot on the ground, both toe and heel on the ground. And then from here, you're gonna bring your knee towards the wall, keeping that heel anchored down to the ground. You should feel a stretch in the back of your calf. If you don't feel it in this front leg, take a small step back and do the same thing again. Try and keep that heel on the ground and knee going towards the wall. And then hold that stretch. You don't ever stretch, you just lift heavy weights. I find, so some people that works for, I find that just doing resistance training doesn't give me enough flexibility. It will improve my flexibility, but not as much as dedicated flexibility training. But if that works for you and doing heavy lifting is getting you where you want to go, that's totally fine. As long as you're doing full range of motion lifting, they found that that's actually beneficial for flexibility as well. I find I get some from it, but I really would like to have more than just that. Same thing other side. And if you're not exercising the muscle actively, sometimes people will not work out muscles that feel weak or feel tight. And so they skip that, and then they skip the difficult exercises and never improve them. And that's a problem. So I like to do this to stretch out, to get used to moving through the range of motion, and then start adding resistance training into it, or weightlifting, as you were saying, for adding that strength where you actually don't feel so limited in that exercise. And relax. All right, so for this next one, it's gonna be a deep squat stretch. So I'd recommend doing this one against a wall. So you're gonna walk your feet out to the side, sort of like you're riding a horse, and you're gonna push your elbows into your knees, sitting it back against the wall, and then push out on your knees. You should feel a stretch on the inner part of your thigh, down more towards the back though on this one. So sitting down as low as you can, pushing out with your elbows, feeling the stretch on both legs at once. When I trained in martial arts, we called this horseback riding stance. So it's sort of like riding a horse. I think another name for it would be a sumo squat stance. But usually your feet are a little bit pointed more out for that one on a sumo squat. And relax. The girls love it. Girls love lifting heavy or that stretch. Oh, squat's happening? Yeah, we were just doing a squat stretch. John says, you look like the guy from Little Britain. I don't know what Little Britain is, but thanks, I think. Hopefully. I'll take that as a compliment. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what Little Britain is. Jose says they love your muscles. Hey, that's great. As long as you feel comfortable moving around and don't feel like you're restricted in any way, like if that's working for you to do heavy lifting, that's fine. Again, I like to do a little bit of dedicated flexibility training because I find the heavy lifting doesn't get me quite enough stretching. Especially in the quads, I find that I really want to do a couple different ways of stretching that. So for that, we're gonna actually go into a kneeling stretch for these quads. You're gonna reach around, grab your ankle, and then pull up to the back, feeling a stretch in your quads. John says, it's a compliment, bro. Thank you. I appreciate it, John. NPR 21 says, I just started. Thank you for the tips. You're welcome, NPR. Thank you for starting. I'm so glad that you're going forward. That's the whole thing, is I want to try and help people get started, help people get moving, and feel good in moving. So same thing on the other side, in a kneeling position, grabbing your ankle, pulling up to the back, feeling a stretch in your quads in the front, or front of your back leg. As the whole goal with this is to help people get moving. If you're already moving, already have something that works well for you, that's great. We're here, like Jose is doing heavy lifting, and that's working for him, that's great. And if the goal is to help you find something to help you move more effectively, because we want everyone to stay healthy and move through their whole lives. All right. Oof. I find for me, the biggest thing that's limited me in exercise has not been how hard the exercise is, but when I get injured, that's the thing that really sets me back. So I like stretching because I find I get injured less if I maintain my flexibility. So I really like to focus in on that because it's much more about how do I prevent injury. NPR 21 says, do I have any lifting tips? So that depends on what lifts you're doing. Big thing I would say in lifting is anytime you work one side work the other side too. So if you're doing, for instance, curls, make sure you're doing extensions too. So you're working one side of the muscle and the other at not necessarily the same day, but at least the same week. Some people like to do pulling one day, pushing another. That's fine because you're working both directions. But I would try and focus on getting a little bit of everything rather than specializing in one half. A lot of people work what's called mirror muscles, where it's like it looks good in the mirror, but they don't work other side to balance it out. So that's what I would recommend in any lifting. Try and do things on both sides of your body. Use your whole body, not just one half of it. So hopefully that helps NPR 21. Also, yeah, I mean, depends on how deep you want to go. There's a lot of things about lifting. Hey, welcome. So glad you subscribed. Appreciate you being here. All right, let me think for a moment. I lost my train of thought. Just worked this. Let's go ahead and do a seated stretch. So for this one, it's stretching the outside of the calf. So you're gonna put your feet together and then bring your knees in towards the middle, pushing with your hands. If you can get all the way together, that's good, but you should feel a stretch on the outside of your calf here. If you can actually get all the way together and not feel the stretch, either your feet aren't all the way together or you're just really flexible. So don't feel like you have to push it further than that. Don't want to really crank on your ankles that much, but just a gentle stretch, feeling it on the outside of your calf right here. I like this one because it's the muscle that resists spraining your ankle, or the most common ankle sprain called an inversion ankle sprain. So this muscle actually protects that ankle from inversion ankle sprains. And relax. So any stretches we do, I'd recommend stretching for at least 20 seconds, all the way up to 40 seconds. So you're not just quickly stretching it, you're letting it actually relax into that movement. CD70 says cool. Good to have you, CD. Province, hey man, how are you? Hey, good to see you. I think I remember you from, I think we had a conversation a few weeks back. How you been? All right, so we just stretched the outside of the ankles. Are there any stretches you guys feel like, oh man, I'm really tight in a particular area of my leg? Let me know and we will make sure to get that. I'd like to do a little bit more for the inner thigh. So I find that that's a really common tight muscle group. So we're going to do a deep lunge, deep side lunge stretch. So going into a kneeling position, dropping the hip to the back, pushing down on the leg into that stretch, feeling it on this straight leg. Try and have your toe pointed towards the front. I think I'm watching you live after 1 month. Oh, nice. Yeah, I was gonna say it's been a little bit. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And holding that stretch. This is, again, a great stretch to do if you're working on splits, because you can stretch one leg at a time and you're not having to hold in this position while still stretching the same muscle groups. CD says, what about tight hamstrings? Because I've had it 2 weeks ago and it wasn't fun. Okay, yeah, we will definitely do a tight hamstring stretch next. If you pull the hamstring, you might need to let it heal a little bit. So if it's painful to do any of these, then back off a little bit, let it heal up, and then you can start stretching as soon as it's no longer painful. What we're gonna do is a hamstring stretch using a door frame or a wall. So you're gonna need something to put your leg up against. So for the hamstrings, you're going to put your heel up against the wall and then try and straighten your knee as straight as you can get it. So if you need to, you can have it a little bit bent. Just try and feel that stretch in the back of your thigh. Only go to where you feel tension but no pain. If you need to increase it, the closer you are to that wall, the more of a stretch it will be. If you need to, you can put both feet up so you're stretching both at the same time. If you have a door frame though, where you can prop your foot up against it like this, it's easier to stretch one at a time. So yeah, if you have a pulled hamstring and this is painful to do, then let it heal a little bit. The muscle is still healing back and you don't want to tear that more. But once it's healed, you want to help work the muscle fibers to actually get it so it gets that range back again where it can fully stretch and fully contract. I'd hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. Again, the straighter you make your knee, the closer you are to the wall, the more of a stretch it's going to be. So if you need to bend your knee till you feel that stretch, that's okay. The straighter you are, the more straighter that knee, the more stretch you'll feel. And same thing on the other side. Foot against the wall. And you guys get to see just how not tan I am. And pushing, you can even take your hands and gently push down the knee till you feel a stretch in the back of your thigh. Provence says, whenever I do back workout, my lower starts paining after 1 or 2 hours of workout. It's not about how much weight I'm lifting. I'm only lifting 30 to 35 kilograms. It starts hurting in your lower back. So that, what sort of lifts are you doing in that hour or 2 hours? So low back, if you're feeling it right in here, so something you can do to help prevent your back from hurting as much or take some pressure off your back is think about extending through that rib cage. What happens a lot of times is that lower back has to overarch because the rib cage is a little bit forward. So sometimes actually extending that rib cage. So think about straightening at your rib cage can help take some of the pressure off the low back. That is a pretty long workout session though. So the low back can be a lot of different things. What causes that pain? There's a lot of big nerves in that area. If you are feeling it on a particular lift, it might be your lifting form, where you're putting a little bit of extra pressure on that area, or it might be that it's having to work twice as hard because of the rest of your spine. So I'd focus on spinal stacking, which is your whole spine is straight up and down. It might be you're a little bit forward at the top, and that's causing your low back to have to work harder, or it really depends on where that's coming from. Corey says foam roller is amazing for mid upper back. True, that is a great point. Let me show that real quick. I really agree, Corey. So foam roller for mid back, if you put it at the rib cage and then push your arms forward and then arch over the top of it, can help extend that middle back. You might even feel a pop or a little bit of a click in your back doing that. So just move it up the rib cage, pushing your shoulder blades up and away from the foam roller, and then working at extending over the top of that foam roller. So you just move it up your vertebra or up your spine piece by piece. But start at the rib cage and up. Don't go down into the low back, because you can actually jam those bones and those facets right there, and that would cause more pain than. So I would keep it above your rib cage. So here and up. Oh, Corey, yeah, so the McKenzie method, that gets into more therapy techniques on things. I would say if you have some low back pain, some people find that going up into a press-up position can help relieve that back pain. So holding this, or if you can't hold it, then you can just press up to where right before you feel pain, and then back down gently, and that gets the back moving. But I'm using my arms instead of my back muscles to let that relax into that position. And if you can, go up and hold, because those vertebra, or those that you have discs in your back that have a substance that's sort of like thick toothpaste in it. And so moving it up helps push that away from the nerves back into where it's cushioning your spine. Commonly what's causing back pain is it's pushing against those nerves. Is it because your lower back is weak? No way to know for sure. Probably not. It's probably just put at a mechanically disadvantageous position. The low back is not supposed to be so strong that it holds up your entire body. So if something else is not working, then the low back is usually the thing that has to make up for it. And I mean, it's strong, it's just not necessarily, if you lift regularly, you're probably strong enough as long as you're not lifting in an improper way. I would start with looking at helping other muscles supplement the low back and see if that helps. Check your form for the exercise you're doing. Must be proper form, not because your back is weak. Yeah, CD70, that's definitely true. Your form is the most important thing first to help protect your back. Seeing slouch, bending forward puts us on of low back pain. Yep, which is the same thing we're talking about with the foam roller, of helping keep that rib cage up, where you're creating that good posture. A lot of us tend to round forward, especially up at the rib cage. It's very common. Even for me, I have to I'm aware or I'm conscious of it, and I still sometimes catch myself doing that. Sometimes though, it's not you have bad posture, it's the tissues are working against you a little bit, so you have to loosen them up again to where you can get back into that extension. That's why I really like the foam roller, because it has gravity helping you, where that gravity is assisting you on it. Because it's pushing down on your body as you're rolling over the top of it. Sometimes too, a nerve can get bumped, and all it takes is one little bump on the nerve where it's just slightly off, and then you can have pain, especially if you're working out, like you were saying, an hour or two. That's a long workout session. To be up at 2 hours, it might be that something's getting tired, and then the muscle that was controlling that movement didn't quite control it as much, and then that nerve got irritated, and then that causes pain. All it takes is just a little bit of disruption, and that the nerve can get irritated. So we like our nerves. We want them to not be inflamed or irritated. So that's what a lot of exercise form is, actually prioritizing that nerve. All right, so great questions. Thank you guys for being here. I'm gonna call it there, but I hope to see you guys next time. We're gonna try and do these fairly regularly. So I'm gonna answer this one thing, and then I'm going to sign off. But literally, I don't know if there's anything bad with my posture, but I'll be more careful. It might not, yeah, you might not have something with your posture. Again, I can't see what you're doing to know for sure. We're just giving a couple options of things that might be the case, and hopefully one of these is something that helps, because I know low back pain is really terrible. Corey says, love the channel, man. Subscribing. Hey, thank you. Welcome, Corey. And thank you everyone for being here. So I will see you guys hopefully next time. Take care.